Previously
9/11 all over again.
on the Pastor's
Shut up
Chronicles.
about 9/11.
Kyle, why are you so afraid of the truth?
Because anybody who thinks 9/11 was a conspiracy is a retard.
Butters, do you think 9/11 was just a plot by some angry terrorists, or do you think there was some kind of cover-up?
Well, I heard that 9/11 was caused by President Bush. Butters, you don't really believe that, do you? Well, I mean, you never know. The government does some pretty spooky things. The government and the corporations headed by the Jews that carried out 9/11.
We are told to believe that the fire from the jet fuel melted the steel framing of the towers, which led to their collapse. But did you know jet fuel doesn't burn at high enough temperature to melt steel? We were told the Pentagon was hit by a hijacked plane as well. But now look at this photo of the Pentagon. The hole is not nearly big enough, and if a plane hit it, where's the rest of the plane? Whoa.
I know it seems crazy, but 9/11 was pulled off by our own government, so they could gain support for attacking the Middle East.
Dude, why would the government attack its own buildings?
It's called the false flag policy. Make it look like the enemy has attacked you. Get all your citizens riled up and waving American flags. Then you're free to invade any country you want.
That's retarded.
We control everything. We've all worked very hard to keep our involvement in 9/11 a secret. But you just had to keep digging.
Really?
You won't get away with it. People know.
People? You mean sheeple?
No way.
He was right. You did cause 9/11.
Yes, quite simple to pull off, really. All I had to do was have explosives planted in the base of the towers. Then on 9/11, we pretended like 4 planes were being hijacked when really we just rerouted them to Pennsylvania, then flew 2 military jets in the World Trade Center filled with more explosives and shot down all the witnesses in Flight 93 with an F-15 after blowing up the Pentagon with a cruise missile. It was only the world's most intricate and flawlessly executed plan ever.
What you're gonna hear from me, you're not gonna hear from anybody else because, my opinions, well, let's just say they're not popular. 9/11, inside job, plain and simple. All you gotta do is connect the dots, and I'm not talking about the dots everyone's already heard about. I'm not talking about Bush sitting in that school reading a book about a goat to those kids for 7.5 minutes after he was told the news. Everybody knows that. I am talking about a massive neoconservative government effort. It's been in the works for over 20 years. You ever hear of PNAC? Project for New American Century?
Perhaps.
According to them, the end goal of their effort is American global domination. Full spectrum dominance, they call it. Now, the first question that pops to my mind is, how do you pull that off in this day and age? Well, according to them, you do it in 4 steps. First, we must control the world's oil, especially the oil in Central Asia and the Middle East. Now, I don't have to remind you that Bush Cheney, they came to power with plans already made to attack Afghanistan and Iraq. Number 2, we have to make huge technological advances with our armed forces that for some reason include the capability to fight wars from outer space. Number 3, surprise, surprise, huge increases in military spending to pay for the above. $130 billion a year worth. Now, never mind the sick and dying first responders, 9/11's heroes, who can't even pay their light bill, let alone their medical bills, and a lot of whom are ending up homeless because of it. I guess there's just not enough room in the budget for them. Number 4, and this is key, we changed the definition of preemptive attack so we can unilaterally bomb the shit out of, invade, and occupy countries even if they pose no credible threat or had nothing to do with 9/11. One problem. How are you gonna put it into action? I mean, the American people are never gonna go for no shit like that, right? You're damn straight. Now what you need is an event. An event that gets everyone's heads turned around the right way. What you need is a new Pearl Harbor. That's what they said they needed. Now, you're looking at a guy who went to 58 funerals in 26 days. I can tell you that is sure as shit what they got. Are you single?
So, I read that the former United States is so desperate for medical supplies.
I want you to give us the equipment we need.
Remember those pleas back in April?
We're still getting infected. We're still passing the virus to our patients.
Well, here we are again.
The former United States is so desperate for medical supplies that they have allegedly sent several containers filled with wheat and tobacco. A gesture, they said, of goodwill. You want to know what I think? Well, you're listening to my show, so I will assume you do. I think it's high time we let the colonies know what we really think of them. I think it's payback time for a little tea party they threw for us a few hundred years ago. I say we go down to those docks tonight and dump that crap where everything from the ulcered sphincter of our Serica belongs. Who's with me? Who's bloody with me? Did you like that? USA, ulcered sphincter of our Serica. I mean, what else can you say? Here was a country that had everything, absolutely everything. And now, 20 years later, is what? The world's biggest leper colony.
In February, the American people achieved the longest economic expansion in our history.
It wasn't the war they started. It wasn't the plague they created. It wasn't the war they started. It wasn't the plague they created. We did what we had to do. Islington, Enfield, I was there, I saw it all. Immigrants, Muslims, homosexuals, terrorists, disease-ridden degenerates. They had to go. Strength through
Welcome to The Walking Dead COVID-19 Chronicle. Welcome back to another episode of the Pastor's Chronicles. Before we get started, I would like to invite you to click the link below and join me on Facebook, the Pastor's Chronicles. Also, I would like for you to follow me on Instagram, where you have a lot of updates there. And also join me on my platform, the Pastor's Chronicles. And you can subscribe to that too. And also I want you to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Click the bell so you can get updates and whatnot, so you won't. And I'm dropping right now Tuesdays and Thursdays, and so people, please come back. And I usually drop around 5:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come through and check me out, because people are not getting notifications. Upon that note, let's get started with the next part of this chronicle. So we're going to start this chronicle off like this.
So for topic 2, we have Tyler back again, and he's going to talk about predictive programming with us. So Tyler, take it away. What do you got for us?
So I went to see King Kong a couple days ago, and I know there was a few trailers before it, and there was some stuff said during King Kong And you and I have kind of known about predictive programming from other movies and TV shows and stuff, but I wanted to bring it to you guys. So what is predictive programming? Predictive programming is when events are depicted in a movie or TV show that later come to pass. It can be part of the plot, it could be a quote, something said, or shown, and often there are details that cannot be known yet. So that is what predictive programming is. So I'm going to give you a list from 2017 down. I think we go all the way down to 1989. I don't have them all because there's actually way too many, but the list is going to be pretty big, but we're going to go through it pretty quickly. But first, I want to provide evidence of it before people say, there's no way. Because no, there is. And wait till you hear the second example. But for the first example, we have The Simpsons. They actually predicted in 2000 they had Donald Trump as the president of the United States, which everybody, as we know, everybody made fun of that idea a couple of years ago, and here we are, 2017, Donald Trump's the president of the United States. Now, that's not what's weird. From the episode back in 2000, you see that the design for Donald Trump's banner looks basically identical to what Trump actually used. The only difference is in The Simpsons there was 3 stars compared to 5. Other than that, it's the exact same. He's also wearing a red tie, but mainly the banner is the exact same. That's a little weird for 16 years difference that they happened to get the exact design of his banner right. But maybe that's just a coincidence, right? Okay, so now we move to The Lone Gunman. And The Lone Gunman is a X-Files spinoff. I believe it started in 2001. I think it was only 1 season. But what's interesting about that is, so before 9/11, in August, I believe it was, a episode for The Lone Gunman aired, and it had to do with a terrorist attack on the United States in New York City, where a plane is hijacked and then goes into a building, which you could say, oh, well, they just happened to come up with that idea, and then less than a month later, it actually happens. Well, we actually find out that from the cast themselves, the cast said that the CIA would provide information and story plots to the Lone Gunman writers.
Please take this time to subscribe, hit the bell to turn on your notifications. You may need to come back sometime Tuesdays and Thursdays around 5:45 Eastern Standard Time because YouTube believes in shadow blocking, which means everyone will not get notifications, because what they're trying to do is destroy all channels like this that exposes what the enemies are doing.
So that's a little bit interesting that the CIA happens to give plot points and say, here's what you guys should do this episode on, or here's what you're going to do this episode on. And then you have an episode about a hijacking of a plane and a terrorist attack, and then less than a month later, it actually happens. A little interesting. But again, maybe that's just coincidence. Okay, so then we move on to The Man of Steel that came out in 2011. I think it was June 2011 when that came out. Now, what's interesting of Man of Steel, this is a good one. So in the Alien, spoilers if you haven't seen it somehow already, or if you don't care. In Man of Steel, which is Superman, when the alien ship lands, you can see on the screen, if you pause it, the coordinates of the ship where it lands, and it's in the South China Sea, and you can see the latitude and the longitude. And then towards the end of the movie, when Superman is fighting the bad guy Zod, there's an explosion. You see a bus start to flip up. If you pause it, it says on the bus, on the top of the bus, it says MIA 6370. Now, what's interesting is, and the alien ship, by the way, it's like in the shape of a trident, kind of. It has 3 pronged-ish legs. But what's interesting of that, so Man of Steel, again, June 2011. well, on, I think it was March 4th, 2012, so 9 months later, you have the Malaysian Airlines, or Malaysian International Airlines, Flight 370, disappears, and it just so happens to disappear on the exact same latitude and longitude of the alien ship in Man of Steel that came out again 9 months before.
Right.
And again,
was filmed like a year before that as well.
It was filmed, obviously, so it wasn't filmed in 2011. It was filmed probably in 2009,
right.
and then the editing work was probably 2010. So you have exactly. That was a good point. So you have an alien ship land, South China Sea. You have the latitude, longitude. 9 months later, you have a plane disappear with the exact same latitude, longitude coordinates in the South China Sea. Then you have on the bus MIA, which could be missing in action, or it could be Malaysia or Malaysian International Airlines, where the official name was Malaysian Airlines, but if you actually look into it, they never used to do international flights until a few years ago. So now, international flights, Malaysian International Airlines, MIA, and then people say, oh, well, what about the 6? Well, it's MH370, right? Well, the people call it like Flight 370 sometimes. Flight is 6 letters, and then 370. Now they could have picked. They could have put 6143. They could have picked any combination of numbers that happens to be 370, the same as the plane, and again, the same coordinates that the plane disappears. And like I said about the trident for the ship, the logo for Malaysian Airlines is a trident. Must all be just a coincidence stuff. But even though there's no way, there's no way that that's a coincidence. How can it be 9 months before you happen to have the exact same coordinates and all? That doesn't make sense.
Right.
It doesn't make sense. So those are 3 examples that have, in my opinion, well, the Simpsons one isn't like hard proof, but it should make you kind of scratch your head a little. Then the lone gunman one makes you say, oh, well, so the CIA, that kind of proves the CIA goes to at least certain writers, it goes to writers and say, here, put this in your plot. Here's a story point that we want you to put in your thing. So who's to say that they didn't do that for Man of Steel? Right? Who's to say? Okay, so those are hard-hitting kind of examples. So now we're going to start with 2017. So like I said, I saw Kong. And Kong had, again, predictive programming, which is events that didn't happen yet, but they either show events or they mention things that haven't happened yet, but they come to pass, or they might. Now, I know there's a hollow Earth conspiracy theory out there. I know nothing about it, honestly, so I don't believe in it. I don't know it. I might believe it if I look into it, but I don't know it. But I've watched many movies, I've watched many TV shows, never heard Hollow Earth come up ever. Kong Skull Island they talk about Hollow Earth. So that was interesting, right? But what was really interesting was right before Kong aired, or right before it came on the screen, there was a trailer for The Circle, which you and I have talked about, The Circle, and Geostorm. Now, Geostorm, so this Geostorm comes out, I think it's October of 2017, and The Circle, I think it's April of 2017. Now, here's what's interesting about, I'm going to start with The Circle. What's interesting about The Circle? Well, The Circle is basically about mass surveillance. There's an organization that watches and listens to everything that you say and do, and then we learn, in the trailer, but what we're going to learn in the movie is there's kind of like a dark, hidden secret. Something not good is going on behind the scenes. But the predictive programming theme is mass surveillance. Now that trailer came out, I think it was like around a week before, was it Logan? Yeah, it was Logan, before Logan came out, which was March 3rd, right?
Yep.
But what was funny was, so you went and saw Logan.
Yep.
And then I think you saw it, when did you see it? Saturday?
I saw the day after it came out. Yeah, so I saw it the 4th.
Right. You saw it the 4th. And then the 6th, I believe it was the 6th, that we learned from WikiLeaks, Vault 7, right? That the CIA listens and watches through phones, smart TVs, a bunch of other stuff. They listen and watch mass surveillance to, the citizens of the United States and world leaders and whatever. But isn't that interesting that we have a movie coming out about mass surveillance? We're listening, we're watching, and then a few days later you have WikiLeaks come out and say, look at what the CIA does. They listen and watch to everything you do. Well, that probably was a little bit weird for you who just saw that as a trailer, right?
Right.
Wasn't that weird? Like, oh, didn't I just see that as a movie plot?
Right.
But it's not that they happened to come up with that plot.
Right.
Then people can say, oh, well, it was a book. Yeah. Look at Tom Clancy books. So just because it was a book, it doesn't matter. The point is, it was a book that now they're making into a movie because they always do. They say, here's what we have, but we don't want you to know we have it. But we're kind of showing you that this is what we have. This is what's going to happen.
Here's the scary kind of possibility that exists, that could exist.
And that's what predictive programming. It's whoever's above, at the top, the elite. They get to say, here's what we can do. Here's what's going to happen. This is in the pipeline. We're just kind of letting you know. So when it does happen, it's kind of already in your head. It doesn't scare you so much. But the circle, that was another big one. I mean, that's proof, right? Almost.
Yeah.
Pretty much proof. Then you see Geostorm. It's weather manipulation. That's the predictive programming plot, weather manipulation. And they kind of make it over the top, well, for a movie, at least, where all these big storms and this and that. Now that looks like, oh, that's a cool movie. Yeah, well, it's actually scary. March 1st, 2017, Fox News Tech Report. Scientists and researchers in Nevada are working on cloud seeding, which is when they release flares of silver iodine from a plane's wing to generate more ice particles in a cloud. And that helps produce and enhance precipitation. February 2017, China spends $168 million on cloud seeding. They started doing cloud seeding in 2008. February 2017, a different article. In 2015, cloud seeding produced dirt. Russia last year ordered rain earlier so they could have dry days for parades that were later in the year. California, get this. This is a good one. California was desperate for extra snow for the ski season, so they ordered extra snow. So speaking of California, don't they have a huge drought going on right now, Alex?
Yes, they do.
Huge drought, right? They have a huge, but then didn't they just have basically a potential disaster on their hands at the Oroville Dam, where they had so much rainfall that a dam literally broke?
Yep.
Speaking of California, don't they have a massive drought? Didn't they just have so much rainfall that it broke a dam?
Right.
That makes sense. Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? You can't have both. And then they ordered extra snow. Well, maybe they ordered rain too.
Right.
Maybe they messed up. But what I'm saying is they do have weather manipulation. I mean, those are 3 articles. I'll put them in the description or in the comments.
Yeah.
You can look it up. They've been doing it. China, 2008. California, Texas, 2015, 2000. I mean, Russia last year. I mean, they've been doing it for years. So again, but that's not like in the public stuff. You have to find that stuff. But I mean, there's articles on it, Fox News. But there's articles, but they don't put it in the mainstream media, right? But they do have it. So that's more proof that they do this. That they actually do have stuff. They just don't let you know about it. They tell you through movies or TV.
Right.
Next. Passengers. Now I'm kind of like done explaining stuff. Now I'm just going to go through a whole list for the most part. So now we're hitting 2016. That's all I know about 2017. That's enough. I mean, those are 2 good ones, 2 huge ones. I think King Kong, that was a good movie. Go see it. Passengers is a 2016 movie. Decent movie. Earth relocation, that's the topic. Arrival. New World Order with Aliens, 2016. Then we have the Winter Soldier. I think that might be out. That's 2014. That's about mass surveillance. There it is again, mass surveillance. And we remember how they were watching a bunch of people that were going to kill millions of people, right? Because they didn't know with an algorithm, blah, blah, blah. They were a threat. Mass surveillance, again. Plus the New World Order. Got to burn the old world down, bring up a new, better world. San Andreas, that was 2015. Yeah, so that was out of our side. San Andreas fault is the predictive programming thing. When the San Andreas fault goes, which can happen.
Which we had a video on. Which we had a video on.
Yes, we did. Snowpiercer. It was a good movie. I like that movie. It's about the next ice age. Bill Nye says never going to happen. He's wrong. Snowpiercer, next ice age. That was 2013. Okay. Hunger Games. That was 2012. That's about the New World Order. There's also a show coming out later this year in Russia, which will, I'm sure, be adapted to the U.S. next year. It's called Game 2 Winter. It's literally the Hunger Games. Rape, killing, everything. So anything you have to do to survive, you can. It starts, I think, this coming winter for Russia. 2012. The Dark Knight Rises. That came out on July 2012, The Dark Knight Rises. Good movie. You and I both love it.
Yeah.
I love it a lot. And you love it a lot, too. Unfortunately for us, though, Sandy Hook.
Yeah.
Sandy Hook was on the map. And it was December when Sandy Hook... for the movie, it was December. Sandy Hook was written on a map. What sucks about that is the movie came out in July of 2012. And Sandy Hook didn't happen until December 14th of 2012. Before that time, before Sandy Hook, December 14th, 2012, 12, 14, 12, nobody knew about Sandy Hook. So it was just weird that they would write Sandy Hook on a map. But again, that was one of those examples where it's written, but you're not really, if you pause it and you zoom in and you see it, it's there, just like you see it in the image. But otherwise, people watching the movie, they didn't really see it. You know what I mean? You gotta look. Same thing with the Man of Steel thing, which is ironic because it's Batman and then there's Superman. So what's ironic is the latitude, longitude stuff for Man of Steel, you have to pause it to catch it. Otherwise you wouldn't catch it. Okay, moving on. Planet of the Apes, you know, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, it doesn't matter. They're all basically the same topic, which is a global pandemic. That was 2011 for Rise of the Planet of the Apes. The global pandemic, which you're going to be hearing quite a bit of, which gets a little bit creepy. Then we said Man of Steel. That's MH370, 9 months before it happened, 2011. Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, Alex's probably favorite movie, 2007. That had Flat Earth in it.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, they had Flat Earth in it. With the big waterfall and all that stuff. Flat Earth, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Then we have I Am Legend, 2007, another global pandemic movie.
Yeah.
We have, in 2004, now I skipped some because, again, it would be a massive list. I mean, there's way more than this, but these are like big name movies, big movies. So I Am Legend, global pandemic. Day After Tomorrow is 2004, and the topic for that is another ice age, just like Snowpiercer. So that's kind of weird. And then if you look into it, there are some scientists that are saying, yeah, we are going to be having another ice age. And not that far away. In fact, I think you just almost had one a couple weeks ago in New York, Alex. So then we have Back to the Future. Now, this is a good one, and I asked people to look it up. I mean, look up any of these, but look into the Back to the Future one because it's actually kind of cool. I'll give one example or two examples really quick. But Back to the Future, that's 1989. And the topic for that, the predictive programming, was 9/11, which obviously happened, but many years after Back to the Future came out. And really quickly, look it up, but really quickly, when he, what is it? Oh, it might have actually, that might have been, so there's actually two, because in is it Back to the Future 2 that he,
yeah.
So actually they did 9/11 two times, I think, because in Back to the Future 2, when he's in the future, no, is it, or is it, no, it is 2, yeah, when he is in the house, and then the window basically is a TV, and they're flipping channels, but the channels are like slides, and they move up, or they move down, sorry, they move down. There's actually, one of the channels that they have on is the two towers. And when they change it, when they change the channel, it looks like the two towers go down like a pancake, just like they did. And then they, in Back to the Future 1, it was Twin Peaks Mall or something like that. Twin Peaks Plaza, Twin Peaks Mall. And then there's the clock that says 9/11. And then when he goes back to the future, after running over a tree, blah, 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 then it's like Lone Peaks Mall or something like that. But what's interesting is the two towers fell and one building went up. Which, again, people might say, oh, that's nothing, but there's way more. Look into it. That's actually a really cool one to see. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's cool. So look that one up. But Back to the Future 9/11, and again, 1989 for the first one. And last for the movies, then we're going to get into TV shows quickly. I never heard of this movie, but I want to watch it now. The Truman Show.
Oh, yeah.
that
Jim
came out in
Carrey.
1998 with Jim Carrey, yeah. And it's about either flat Earth or everything might be a simulation.
Yep.
Actually, there is one more movie that I forgot about, and that is The Matrix, which I don't remember, when did that come out? 1999.
Yeah.
It came out in 1999. And that, again, that would be another movie where is everything just a simulation?
Right.
Which, then you look that up, and there's actually quite a few scientists who are starting to wonder that question. And Elon Musk of Tesla believes that we are. So there are people actually that are talking about that, but it's just interesting all those years ago. And, now that's a topic.
Right.
Like an actual topic among quite a few scientists. I think I got all the movies. Pretty sure. If I didn't, well, then that sucks. Nope, I did. Okay, so now for TV, I'll go quickly through this. But for the TV, we got The Last Ship on TNT that started in 2014. The Last Ship is again about global pandemic. And then you look at what Bill Gates just said a couple of weeks ago, and he said within 10 to 15 years, we're going to have a global pandemic. And it's going to wipe out millions of people. I think he said like 30 million or 30% of the population.
Yeah.
But he just said that a few weeks ago, Bill Gates. So again, The Last Ship, global pandemic. The show started 2014. Well, the year order doesn't matter for this really, because it's just TV shows. But we got, so I'll do another global pandemic one for a TV show. 12 Monkeys on Sci-Fi. I actually really like that show. 12 Monkeys, another global pandemic show. That's 2015 that came out. You have The Strain, which I also really like. That started, now this one's a good one too. That started in 2014. What's interesting about the first episode, that started in, it was in the summer, so it was either July or June or July. I think it was July. But what's interesting is in the first episode of The Strain, not really spoiling it, but there's a I think it's a lunar or a solar eclipse. There's an eclipse, I forget which. There's an eclipse, there's an outbreak on a plane, and then all the stuff starts to happen, then it starts to spread, blah, blah, blah. But what's interesting, and that takes place in October of the show. But what's interesting is later that year like for us in real life, in 2014, we had the Ebola scare. And that happened to be in October, and what's interesting about that is he was on a plane, and it might have spread in the plane, blah, blah, blah. Right. But what's really interesting is there happened to also be an eclipse. So that's interesting. So The Strain, that's an outbreak / end of society predictive programming show. So now we have Mr. Robot, very good show. That's about the economic collapse. That's 2015 it started. You have Colony, that's New World Order with aliens. So because of aliens, a New World Order comes out of it. That started last year, 2016. You have Childhood's End, 3-part movie, a mini movie, about the New World Order with aliens. Because of aliens, New World Order starts. Also, we see a universal income, which we actually have never really seen that in a TV show or a movie. It's very rare to see.
Yeah.
That was 2015. So you see there's quite a few New World Orders with Alien, either TV or movies. There's at least 3 that I have, I think, on this list. There's more though. So you got those, Colin, Channel 10. You got X-Files, the season 10 when it came back last year. That was also the last episode, but if you look at the first episode and the last episode, they're very much connected. That was about a global pandemic, and again, that was 2016. And then you have, how I mentioned the lone gunman earlier, so that predicted 9/11, again, 2001, that predicted 9/11, but in that episode it also talked about how the government can hijack planes remotely and can control them remotely, and again, that was confirmed in WikiLeaks Vault 7, that the CIA can remotely hack into planes, cars, and blah, 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 and they can control them. So that was interesting that 16 years ago, they happened to know something that didn't just come out, and probably wasn't ever supposed to come out anytime soon, that the government can do. So they just happened to hit the nail on the head. Interesting. And then there's actually just 2 more, and that is The Simpsons also had a Flat Earth mention. And now Simpsons seems like not legitimate, but it is only because really of the Trump presidency thing. So that kind of makes it like, you almost got to watch certain things. And then on Family Guy, and I don't remember what year this was that they had this, but on Family Guy they actually predicted the Boston bombing, because Peter Griffin was talking about he was in the Boston Marathon, blah, blah, and he runs over all these people, but then you hear explosions, and the explosions actually match up with the actual explosions. So that's interesting too. But I believe that I got them all. That's all of them. And that's all that I have on the list. Again, there's way more. It's a big list. This is the only list on at least YouTube that has modern day movies and shows on it. But yeah, so I mean, I feel like seeing all of that and seeing aliens a couple times is kind of scary. Oh, and I should say, by the way, because I forgot, sorry, that the Childhood's End also shows Earth relocation. I forgot to mention that. Sorry, Alex.
That is okay.
But yeah, so that's the list that I have. Definitely look into it. You know, you can watch some of those shows because they're actually all good shows or movies.
Right. Yeah. If you don't,
quite interesting stuff.
Yeah. You don't have to take us at our word. You can look it up. We have,
right.
In the video, we're going to have all the pictures of the different movies and shows Tyler is talking about. It's already passed, so you know everything. You can go ahead, look at. He didn't just make these up. You can go watch any of these.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you could, and I'm sure that most of you have seen
a lot of them.
The majority of the movies.
Right.
And at least some of the shows, maybe.
Right.
Or are aware of some of the shows. But it's just interesting. And again, because of all the stuff that I talked about in the beginning, like Man of Steel and all that, and just the presidency banner and all that, when certain things, and all of these can be that, the problem is we don't know until it happens, right?
Right.
But when you have some that have happened, because there's quite a few 9/11 ones. Oh, The Matrix. Sorry again. The Matrix, there's quite a few times that they mentioned 9/11. That was in, what did I say, 1999?
Yeah.
2 years before 9/11.
Yep.
I forgot I didn't have that one written. But that has 9/11 stuff in it. So again, it's like, how many... So you got Back to the Future, 9/11. The Simpsons, I didn't even mention The Simpsons, did I? For 9/11, did I?
No. But
the Simpsons
had
had 9/11 quite a few times.
Yeah. Simpsons has nailed a couple of them.
Stuff.
Quite a few
Yeah,
things.
they've had quite a few. So you have, sorry about that. So you have Simpsons 9/11, you have The Gunman 9/11, you have Back to the Future 9/11, you have The Matrix 9/11. That's 4 that I have, and there's more. That's 4 that I have that all show either the date or certain things that all show 9/11 before 9/11 happens, and then 9/11. I mean, it's part of history, right? It happened.
Right.
So, and the Man of Steel, it shows MH370. It happened 9 months later. The mass surveillance. Now we know that they do that. The weather manipulation. We know that they've been doing it, right? The hijack of planes, of remotely hijacking planes. Now we know that they do that. So it's like, okay, well, what we thought are just movies or TV shows or just plots in these, you have to start to wonder, are they just plots or are they trying to tell me something? I mean, I didn't even mention The Walking Dead. That could be a pandemic. That could be end of society type scenario.
Right.
I didn't mention Revolution, which was on a few years ago. A global blackout. There's a number of shows. I didn't mention The 100, which is the same stuff. I didn't mention CW's Rise that comes out later this year or next year, which is about
martial law.
Martial law. I mean, the list actually goes on. I didn't mention The Legend of Korra, a cartoon on Nickelodeon that actually has a whole season on the New World Order. So again, you could look into it yourself. Just start paying attention when you're watching stuff. But when you're seeing, it's not. You can't go into a movie and say, "Oh, it's just a movie. Let's enjoy the movie and eat popcorn." That's fine. You can do that. But I didn't mention the last James Bond. That talks about the New World Order. I didn't talk about John Wick 2. That's very New World Order elite type stuff. Behind the scenes, stuff happens behind the scenes. I didn't talk about that stuff because there's so many. The list goes on and on and on. But the thing is, when you have, and it could all be meaningless, but we know it's not meaningless because of the ones that I talked about.
Right.
So that's when you have to start to question basically everything.
Yep. So again, let us know what you think about these. Make sure you watch these. And again, let us know what you think about it as well. Thank you, Tyler, for joining us for Topic 2 on episode 41.
Thank you.